It's going at a rapid pace. Illegal immigration hurts all Americans. But if we had proper border security, including a very powerful wall, we wouldn't have to work so hard. And it would be a lot safer and a lot better. We are one united movement, one united people, and one United States of America. And we will make America great again.
Good morning to you. It is Tuesday, February 12th, and this is Fox and Friends First, happening right now at 4 a.m. A Fox News alert for you. President Trump rallying in El Paso just as lawmakers reach a possible deal on border security. What it means for the wall as Democrats dig in on a new sticking point. And Beto at the border, the former lawmaker taking a stand against the president in his old district. How the president just fired back. And up in smoke, presidential candidate Kamala Harris setting social media ablaze with her take on legalizing pot. Fox and Friends First starts right now. Morning, you don't want to miss it. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much, as always, for starting your day with us. Let's get right to that Fox News alert, though, for you, because we've got a lot of news to cover. An agreement is reached in principle to avoid a second government shutdown as President Trump takes his national security message straight to the southern border.
Walls save lives. My administration has put forward a compromise. It's compassionate, and it's going to solve our problem.
Well, now the clock is ticking for lawmakers to hammer out details of the deal before Friday's deadline. So what does it mean for the wall? What does it mean for ICE detention beds? Griff Jenkins joins us live in Washington with the breaking developments. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. Agreement in principle, if that sounds delicate, because it is, and the devil, of course, is in the details. But for now, at least they are talking. Top negotiators seem to have reached some common ground that would avert Friday's deadline. Democrat Senator Patrick Leahy had this to say.
There's not a single one of us is going to get every single thing we want, but nobody does. But we're going to get what is best for the United States.
So what is in this? Let's take a look. $1.375 billion for 55 new miles of border wall. The Border Patrol can use any currently deployed design they want, including those steel slats. All of the miles will be in the Rio Grande Valley sector, or the RGV. That's the heaviest trafficked area of the entire southern border. Then there is this, which may be the sticking point today, and that is the Democrats claiming a 17% decrease in ICE detention beds. Now, there's currently funding for just over 49,000 ICE beds. This tentative agreement would curb that funding down much closer to 40,000, but there is wiggle room because there is additional funding elsewhere for DHS authority to use for additional beds should they need to respond to a sudden surge in illegal immigration. And Democrats dropped one proposal that was drawing a lot of scrutiny but may have really moved these talks, Heather, and that is they scuttled a proposal to cap the total number of detainees caught in areas away from the border at 16,500. Now, the other big question is whether or not President Trump will sign this. News reached him quickly in El Paso.
Progress is being made with this committee. Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. So we probably have some good news, but who knows? Who knows?
Well, we do know it's certainly not the $5.7 billion that the president asked for. So we'll see exactly what the language is in this bill. It looks like it's probably going to be released on Wednesday, possibly late today, but very fluid. But good that they're still talking, Heather.
Yeah, down from $5.7 billion, which was down from the original $25 billion. I want to ask you, though, you were there in the Rio Grande area. This 25 miles of new border wall, is that enough for them?
Well, if you talk to the RGV Border Patrol officials, they'll probably tell you they'll take anything they can get, but there's always need for more because of the proven track record of having some sort of structure. You know, they say they need three things, Heather: infrastructure, technology, and manpower. Mm-hmm. This is just one step forward in getting the big picture tools that they need.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Griff. Well, as Griff was just telling us, the Democrats plan to limit the number of detention beds is just the latest development in their mission to abolish ICE. Mark Morgan, former Border Patrol chief for the Obama administration, says less beds means more criminals on the streets.
That's a significant step towards really abolishing ICE via the checkbook. And there's actually two elements to their plan. They want to actually reduce overall bed space for ICE and then cap the interior enforcement. So basically, we already know that if you're a child or a family unit, you're going to be allowed in this country. That's catch and release 1.0. This will virtually mean catch and release 2.0. Common sense, right? As bed space goes down, illegal immigration goes up. ICE, Border Patrol turns everybody we apprehend over to ICE. As the bed space goes down, that means they're going to have to release more individuals into the interior United States. That is catch and release 2.0. From a common sense standpoint, that means that people here that are here illegally and have committed an additional crime and or charged of additional crime, ICE will be forced to release them.
Now, according to ICE statistics, 86% of the nearly 110,000 illegal immigrants detained under the Obama administration in 2016 had criminal records. And of the nearly 160,000 illegals detained last year, 66% had confirmed criminal past. Well, Beto O'Rourke taking part in a dueling march and rally against President Trump in El Paso. The Democrat painting a very different picture of safety to more than 1,000 supporters in his former congressional district.
Safe, not because of walls, but in spite of walls. Secure, because we treat one another with dignity and respect.
Well, about a mile away, President Trump mentioned O'Rourke, who lost his U.S. Senate race to Ted Cruz.
The young man who's got very little going for himself, except he's got a great first name. He challenged us.
O'Rourke will decide if he's running for president by the end of the month, but no announcement last night. Well, President Trump slamming Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for her apology after she accused a lobbying group of paying members of Congress to support Israel. The president telling reporters, quote, "I think she should be ashamed of herself. I think it was a terrible statement, and I don't think her apology was adequate." And Doug McElway has the latest reaction on this story out of Washington.
Representative Ilhan Omar's apology came after a flurry of bipartisan criticism. Quote, "We have to always be willing to step back and think through criticism. This is why I unequivocally apologize." It stemmed from her Sunday night tweets that critics say were loaded with stereotypes about Jews and money. Quote, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby." When a follower asked who's paying American politicians to support Israel, Omar responded, AIPAC. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee is frequently accused by opponents of fomenting hatred of Iran. Hours later, the House Democratic leadership called Omar's tweets, quote, "deeply offensive," and demanded she apologize. One Republican critic suggests it's all an evolution of the Democratic Party's embrace of racial identity politics.
When you try to cultivate groups on the basis of race or religion or culture, you're going to run into the conflicts amongst those groups on the basis of religion, culture, and heredity.
But in a letter criticizing Omar, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler also accused her GOP critics of, quote, advancing their agenda by distracting those committed to equality and social justice. And recently, DNC Chairman Tom Perez offered only the mildest of rebukes of Omar.
The Democratic Party, our platform has been very clear about Israel. It's been very clear about dignity for both Israel and the Palestinian people.
After Omar's apology, she added this, and I quote, "At the same time, I reaffirm the problematic role of lobbyists in our politics, whether it be AIPAC, the National Rifle Association, or the fossil fuel industry. It's gone on too long, and we must be willing to address it." End quote. In Washington, Doug McElway, Fox News.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. Let's stick to Washington for a moment. Today, family and friends, they will say goodbye to the longest-serving congressman in history, John Dingell. Now, his funeral is this morning, and it's in his hometown of Dearborn, Michigan. His wife, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, getting emotional as she greeted hundreds of people paying respects in their community. On Thursday, a funeral mass will be held in Washington, D.C., before Dingell is laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery. And the Michigan Democrat died last week at the age of 92. Well, the other big story you do need to know about today, powerful winter storms slamming the U.S. from the northwest to the northeast. Rain now mixing with snow in the Seattle area, causing a slushy mess on the roads. The storm prompting a ground stop at the airport overnight. And in Iowa, a driver losing control on a snowy road, crashing into a police cruiser. No one was injured. And in the Northeast, snow expected to disrupt this morning's commute for millions. New Jersey's under a state of emergency. Upstate New York could see up to 2 feet of snow. We need Janice Dean in here to tell you some more details on that, but she will be coming up later. Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour. President Trump says the wall will save lives as lawmakers reach a deal to pay for border security and prevent another shutdown. Our next guest's son was killed by an illegal immigrant. Why she says the president's message was so refreshing to hear. And watching Netflix could cost you. The plan one state has in the works to tax the streaming service. That and more coming up, so don't go away.
We want to stop criminals from coming in. Walls save lives. Walls save tremendous numbers of lives. Safety is the birthright of every American, which is why we must finish the wall.
Well, the president making his case for a border wall at a packed rally in El Paso, Texas. The Border Wall Committee announcing a deal, potential deal, a deal in principle, I think they're saying, with less than half the money the president wanted for a barrier. So will this be enough to secure the border? Angel mom Sabina Durden has called out Democrats for refusing to fund the wall, and she joins us now live. Thank you so much for joining us so early this morning. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you and good morning, Heather. It's nice being here.
Well, begin, if you can, by sharing a little bit about your son's story. I understand that back in 2012, July 12th, 2012, he was killed by an illegal immigrant who was driving drunk.
Yeah, he was close to the drunk limit, but he was driving without a license. He had 2 previous felonies, 2 DUIs, which he was placed on probation for. And he turned his truck in front of my son. He was riding his motorcycle to work at the 911 Sheriff's Dispatch Center in Riverside, California, and killed him instantly. And he only received a misdemeanor without gross negligence and served only 35 days.
You know, we look at these pictures of your son with his smile. You know, he had such dreams, right? He dreamed of becoming a licensed, he was a licensed pilot, and he wanted to become a deputy?
Yes, he wanted to become a helicopter pilot for the Sheriff's Department. That was his ultimate goal. Yes, ma'am.
You know, I want to go from your story to what Bob Menendez had to say in terms specifically of illegal immigrants with DUIs. Now, listen to this, and I want your take on it.
The president has decided to criminalize everybody who is an undocumented immigrant. If a person has a driving while under the influence violation, he is now making that, saying that that's a criminal.
Now, what do you think he's trying to say? I mean, is he trying to say that driving under the influence, if you're an illegal immigrant, it shouldn't be criminal?
Yeah, I guess he's having a double standard. So Americans get locked up for DUIs and illegal aliens don't. They shouldn't even be here in this country. This kind of excuse for them just draws more here. Why wouldn't they come? If they get excused, if they get leniency from judges like the killer of my son did.
I want to go back now to what the president had to say last night. I know that you were listening to his rally there in El Paso. What are your initial thoughts? Did you hear what you wanted to hear?
Yes, I did. I'm disappointed now about the deal with the money they allowed, but I'm sure he finds a way to build the wall, like he said anyways. He's a brilliant man. And it's so refreshing to see him live and feel the energy of the crowd and people that voted for him, that are excited what he does for our country.
And that was one of the concerns. So it's interesting to hear you say that you're disappointed in the amount of money, if that does end up being true, that he's taking or agreeing to a significantly less amount, and only, 55 miles of new border there in the Rio Grande Valley area of Texas. But you still support him and you still believe in him.
I still believe in him, and I still believe he has an ace up his sleeve. I don't think it's over yet.
Okay, I do want to talk about what's happening there in California with you, though, because the governor has now said that he's going to remove National Guard troops from the border. We heard about this last week from New Mexico, the governor there doing the same thing. Also in California, the governor doing this after trying to set aside $25 million for asylum seekers in that state. So what's your reaction to that?
What a slap in the face of Californians. But I'm not surprised. Kevin Trader Newsom is the nephew of Nancy Pelosi. So his stance is much like hers. They place illegals before Americans. And when he calls it $25 million for amnesty seekers, that's just a code word for illegals. That money should go to the epidemic homeless population that's there, people in need.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wrong. And for me, that any politician, the one in New Mexico, Governor Newsom, and other politicians that don't stand with our president on security of this border, they show their true colors, and it's not red, white, and blue.
Yeah. Sabina, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. We appreciate your story and our prayers with your family. And, you know, the loss of your son was tragic, should not have happened. Thank you.
That's true. Thank you so much.
Well, the time now is about 19 minutes after the top of the hour. Former pot prosecutor, Senator Kamala Harris, now opening her mind to legalizing marijuana.
I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
Carly Shimkus here with the reaction that is lighting up social media, as you would imagine. Well, while the president pushed for the border wall and showed some love for law enforcement, he also revealed his love for something else.
There is nothing better than a good old-fashioned German Shepherd. I wouldn't mind having one, honestly, but I don't have any time. How would I look walking the dog on the White House lawn?
Well, it's been done before, I think. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 here with more on the cute revelation. It was nice.
Who doesn't like a White House dog? Well, the president was talking about the best way to secure our southern border, and he says that a good old-fashioned wall and Border Patrol dogs are the most effective in his opinion. But, you know, these sort of, you know, off-tangent moments always go viral. Yep, that's right. They're the ones that go viral on social media, and a lot of people were talking about this moment with the German Shepherds last night. Take a look at this. One person saying, "Thank you, Mr. President, for the shout-out for German Shepherds." Mike on Twitter says, "Trump said German Shepherds are the best dog," and that's something we can definitely agree on. So a lot of commentary about the dogs there. And I'm sure he's going to like that image. That was the first picture from the first Twitter user showing his German Shepherd with a Trump Make America Great Again sign.
Nice. So I wonder, what would he name his dog?
Well, we have Bo for President Obama. Barney was George Bush's dog. So if he wants to, you know,
stick with the bee theme,
I'm sure he would have to.
People, let us know at home. What do you think he should name his dog?
Buttercup.
If he were to get one.
That'd be very
that's
cute.
a good one.
Maybe not for a German Shepherd, though. All right.
So let's talk about Kamala Harris. She wants to legalize marijuana because it gives people joy. Now, this is a change for her.
Yeah, that's right. She wants to legalize it on a federal level, and she also talked about her own personal experience with marijuana. Watch.
Well, let me just make the statement very clear. I believe we need to legalize marijuana.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
And I inhale. I did inhale. Listen, I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
All right, so she also posted about her thoughts on the legalization of marijuana on Twitter, saying, "Let me be clear. It's time we legalize marijuana at the federal level. Marijuana laws are not applied or enforced in the same way for all Americans, many whose lives have been ruined by these regressive policies. We must change the system." Her past as an attorney general and a prosecutor is going to be something that she's going to have to overcome when it comes to potential progressive votes, and you can really see that on social media. Sam says, "Funny, how many did you imprison as a district attorney and California attorney general?" Another Twitter user saying, "Hearing her talk about criminal justice reform is pure hypocrisy."
Yeah.
So this is going to be a hurdle for her when she wants to get those far left votes going in 2020.
I think that voters are smart. They can tell whether or not someone is actually being authentic to who they truly are. So they're going to have to decide, you know, was she being authentic before or
is
now?
she being authentic now?
Yeah, which is the real Kamala. Please stand up. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Thanks a lot.
The time now is about 26 minutes after the top of the hour, and ISIS nearly wiped out as a fierce fight rages near the terror group's final foothold in Syria. But our next guest says it doesn't end on the battlefield. Former commander of the USS Cole, Kirk Lippold, joins us now live with what the U.S. and its allies need to do now to finish the job. And a short circuit for the burger-flipping robots taking over jobs, the new plan to punish companies who hire robots instead of humans.
Walls save lives. My administration has put forward a compromise. It's compassionate and it's going to solve our problem.
Our top headlines for you this morning at 5:30 of the hour. President Trump doubling down on the need for a southern border wall in El Paso, Texas, as an agreement is reached in principle to avoid second government shutdown. The tentative deal includes nearly $1.4 billion in funding for 55 miles of a new barrier. Lawmakers now need to hammer out details of the deal before Friday's midnight deadline. And Democrat Beto O'Rourke painting a much different picture of safety. The former Texas congressman telling supporters at a rally against the wall a mile away that El Paso is safe in spite of walls, not because of them. The potential presidential candidate represented that area in Congress. And powerful winter storms slamming the U.S. from the northwest to the northeast. Rain now mixing with snow in the Seattle area, causing a slushy mess. And then on the East Coast, snow is expected to disrupt this morning's commute for millions. New Jersey under a state of emergency, and upstate New York could see up to 2 feet of snow. One of the women accusing Virginia's lieutenant governor of sexual assault is calling for open hearings. Well, this happening as several members of Justin Fairfax's staff resign over the allegations. An attorney for one of the accusers saying, quote, Meredith Watson asked the Virginia legislature to hold hearings regardless of what they are called and to reject a secret and delayed proceeding. Well, Fairfax has denied the allegations and called for an FBI investigation into them. One of his accusers, Dr. Vanessa Tyson, is set to speak at a symposium on sexual assault at Stanford University tonight. Well, President Trump weighing in on the controversy surrounding the Democratic leadership in Virginia. And in an exclusive Fox News interview, the president says the state may be ready to flip red.
I think that the Republicans are going to do very well in Virginia. I think a lot of things are happening in Virginia. I think Virginia is ready to flip over to something. And, well, I watched this news conference. It was pretty sad. And look, let them figure out what to do.
Virginia Governor Northam remains under fire this morning for a yearbook photo of a man in blackface. He denies being the person in that picture and has vowed to stay in office. Venezuelans get some much-needed humanitarian aid from the country's opposition leader, Juan Guaido, who the U.S. and dozens of other nations recognize as the president, said overnight that it was the first shipment of a bigger aid package. President Maduro has threatened countries, including the U.S., if they help. Well, today, Venezuelans will continue to protest in the streets, demanding Maduro's resignation. Let's talk about this now. ISIS could be totally defeated as soon as this week, according to President Trump.
The United States military, our coalition partners, and the Syrian Democratic Forces have liberated virtually all of the territory previously held by ISIS in Syria and Iraq.
So how significant would this be? And why isn't the mainstream media talking about this? Retired U.S. Naval Commander Kirk Lippold joins us now to break down what a defeat would mean. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We certainly appreciate it.
Good morning, Heather.
Let's take a look first so everyone at home can see the drastic difference. This is the amount of ISIS territory that they held in January of 2015. And now we can compare that to the ISIS territory controlled in February of 2019. Dramatic difference. So something that we've been doing has been working, right?
Definitely working. I mean, it's very clear that we have been able to take ISIS, bring it down, crush it physically, be able to put it down to where it no longer has a military capability to hold on to its caliphate territory. That said, and that is a very positive development, we are going to need to make sure that we put in place, as we withdraw our forces, the ability of those that have fought ISIS, the Kurds, the Syrian Democratic Forces, and others, to make sure that they have the intelligence, the logistics support, the training if necessary, so that the ISIS fighters cannot regenerate, that they cannot reconstitute as a fighter. If we so much as even suspect that even one village is taken over, we need to ruthlessly stomp it out to send the signal that this will not be allowed to happen again.
And what do you mean by that? What would that entail, to ruthlessly stomp it out?
I think it's going to have to be keep the intelligence on the ground, make sure that we have not an active presence with troops, but an ability to continue to monitor, to gather intelligence there, to know and understand what's going on, to listen to the fighters, to ensure that the Kurds themselves, who have bore the brunt of this fighting, are protected from Turkey and that are allowed to continue to exist there to ensure that ISIS cannot regenerate. Work with Iraq, continue to keep them and their forces logistically supplied and trained so that we can keep that pulse on things that are going. Because it's only going to be through intelligence that we're going to be able to conduct some of the precision strikes necessary to keep ISIS down.
Are you concerned about the influence of Russia and Iran now in that area?
Oh, absolutely. I have been for years. And I think a lot of people within both the intelligence and military communities continue to worry about the expansion of Iran into the area. When you look at it, they're essentially surrounding all of Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries there that have been our allies and friends. They're in Lebanon. They're in Syria. They've been now influencing Iraq. When you look down, they're now supporting the Houthi rebels in Yemen. So clearly they're surrounding a lot of these people, giving them any toehold with the Quds forces and others in Syria that has allowed Bashar al-Assad to remain in power is not good for the U.S. and our interests, and we need to continue to work to try and to degrade that influence as much as possible.
And obviously keep it in the news, and that would be my final question to you. You know, when you talk about ISIS losing about 99% of the territory that they controlled, now controlling less than 2 square miles in Syria, why aren't we hearing more about it from the mainstream media?
Well, I think the mainstream media wants to rely on the super cautious, let's not give Trump credit for anything type of attitude, when in fact we have made tremendous strides since President Trump took office in eliminating ISIS as a physical fighting force. That said, its founder al-Baghdadi is still alive. We also have to remember the fighters who are doing these last battles, they are the hardcore radical Islamists. Many of them formed and continue to fight for ISIS. They may disappear, and if they do, they're going to continue to wage that war by influencing others. The ideology is not going to die, merely their physical and military capability to exist. So we will still need to be vigilant to ensure they can never reconstitute.
Nicely said. Commander Lippold, thank you so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate your expertise in this area this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you, Heather.
Have a great day.
You too.
The time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and Americans feeling good about their finances as optimism reaches its highest level in nearly 2 decades. What that means for the economy up next. And here's something you don't see every day. 2 camels. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. Georgia is the latest state to consider taxing streaming services like Netflix. Users would have to pay a 4% sales tax. The extra revenue would be used to subsidize internet lines in rural areas. The governor, Georgia's governor, has said that he would likely oppose the proposal if it reaches his desk. At least 4 states already have a so-called Netflix tax. Speaking of taxes, a robot tax could be on the horizon for companies that replace human jobs with automation. Now, a Chicago lawmaker hoping to pass an ordinance in the Windy City. Companies would be fined up to an entire employee's salary for every job given to a robot. The plan is sparked by the possibility of Chicago courting Amazon. The company is reportedly reconsidering a planned move to New York. Well, Americans Americans are feeling more optimistic in their personal finances than they have in more than 16 years. Tracy Krosko from our sister network Fox Business here with the latest numbers on the growing confidence. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, according to a new Gallup poll, 69% of Americans say they expect to be financially better off at this time next year. So their optimism over their personal finances, as you said, is at an all-time high, something we haven't seen in the last 16 years. 50% say they are in better shape financially than a year ago. And the number saying that they are worse off than a year ago has dropped to 26%. That is the lowest level since 2000. So despite all of the economic ups and downs that we have seen at the start of this year, we had that partial government shutdown. Americans are still feeling pretty good about their personal finances, which means, of course, they could be spending more. They could be buying more. That's good news for the economy, kind of a cycle there, putting it back into the American economy here.
Yeah.
So good news there, something we haven't seen in a while. Feeling pretty confident.
And perhaps soon, somewhere where they could be spending that money would be Toys R Us again.
Yes, Toys R Us could be making a comeback. Former senior executives with the now bankrupt retailer trying to revive Toys R Us and Babies R Us stores. Details are pretty scarce, but they've opened up this new company under a new entity called True Kids. They're looking at a number of different things, maybe some freestanding stores, maybe some toy stores within other stores, and then also expanding their e-commerce. So True Kids, they estimate that 40 to 50% of Toys R Us market share is still up for grabs, despite all the other big box retailers like Walmart, Target expanding their toy aisle. But there is a little bit of skepticism with some of the toy makers who were kind of burned by Toys R Us when they went out of business. Some of them still owed money from the liquidation process. So they are waiting to see if this actually happens, if they do actually open up any of these new toy stores.
Well, kids always want to go to a toy store.
Absolutely.
You got to have a toy store to go to. And you also need to go to McDonald's, and they have a new breakfast item.
Yes, McDonald's officially adding McCafe donut sticks nationally for a limited time to their menu starting on February 20th. Now, the